Hello, reptile entrepreneurs. This is your host, Bill Strand, and today we're going to be exploring niching down, which means finding a very specialized topic and building a business around it. The perfect guest for today's topic is Josh Halter, also known as the BioDude. 5 years ago, with little more than debt to his name, Josh doubled down on his mission to make bioactive mainstream in the reptile community. As you'll hear in this interview, it wasn't easy and there were times that he was sure it was going to fall apart, but he kept at it, and he is a solid example of what can be done if you are passionate and dedicated to your chosen purpose. And more than just creating a business so he can sell products, Josh has a mission. He has a purpose. He has changes in the reptile community that he wants to see. And that is what's driving his business forward. If you are an entrepreneur, if you are thinking about starting a business, I encourage you to listen through this interview. Josh is open and honest about the challenges and pitfalls that he ran into. He talks about how he built the business, how he kept his family strong through the process, and we have a good discussion about how to handle competition, especially those that just come out and copy you. So this is an excellent conversation to listen to and to see what kind of things are ahead of you on your entrepreneurial journey. Please join me in welcoming Josh Halter, the BioDude, to the Reptile Entrepreneur Podcast. Good morning, reptile entrepreneurs. I am here with Josh Halter of the BioDude. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. It is an honor to be a part and to be speaking with you, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for hosting.
Very glad you're here because you are the embodiment of taking a niche and running with it. And so what I'd like you to do is to start off and tell us where the BioDude as a company is right now at this point in time.
Yep. So it's we just closed out our fifth year last year. It's we're first weekend of February. You know, as a business, we have 17 full-time employees plus me. We offer full benefits from health, dental, just got 401k, paid holidays, all that, everything that you could have. That was something I really worked towards too. We are currently supplying over 110 stores around the country with the BioDude line, mainly retail, with maybe 2 online presence because I've been very, just really nitpicking who I want. And then, we operate a retail store here called the BioDude Houston that is attached to my building here in Houston. We operate that 6 days a week, and that we really try to create an experience with. And us as a team, we are continuing embracing and embodying our mission statement of trying to improve husbandry, making education be available to a lot of our consumers, whether they're doing business with me or not, as well as really trying to, maintain our presence here in the form of the natural growth that we've had in, the last 5 years. I tell you, it is very, very, very hard to have an ethical dirt business. It is very, very hard.
You're saying that this you started this 5 years ago.
I did. So my entrepreneurial journey in this industry actually started 13 years ago. I started a business with my brother. It's called Genesis Exotics. We did a little bit of the dry goods stuff and some dart frogs, and I started it part-time in Pennsylvania while I was, going to get my degree in marketing, my associates, I was a veterinary technician for many years while during that time. A lot of other side jobs. Want to take it more seriously, moved down to Texas, and I realized that, a partnership with my brother wasn't the best business decision for me. So I ended up closing that business because I was not in a good space right then and there, just with a lot of the other outside factors, and that's how BioDude was born. And so BioDude's been in business since January 1st, 2017, but I have been slinging products since I was 6. Okay. I would set up lemonade stands, and My mom and I would paint oysters with Santa faces on them and turn them into Christmas ornaments, and I'd sell them to people at my church. When I was a little kid, I would make wreaths out of, because I'm from Pennsylvania, so I'd go in the woods and get, the pine trees and make really nice wreaths and like things that go on the things and sell them at the front of the house with a money box. That was when you could put a money box outside and rely on people to put money in a box and not steal it.
Yeah.
My times have changed.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But ever since I was a little kid, it's always been in my blood to do what I'm doing. It took me until I was 28 and a half years old to fully understand what my purpose on this planet was when it came to my passion of reptiles and amphibians. I mean, I've been keeping those herps, honestly, I would like to say all my life, but not till I was pretty young. After my parents got divorced, my mom finally broke in and got me a leopard gecko after months and months and months and months of hounding. But I would always sneak in animals from outside because Pennsylvania, we had a lot of caudates, firebelly newts. I would find hellbender. I found a hellbender, stuff like that. And I would always like take the newts and keep them for a day or two and then release them back outside. And after my parents were like, Josh, you can't be taking stuff from outside. You gotta put it back, So it's always what I loved.
All right, so
what I hated. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. Let's go into what you hated.
Oh, well, what drove me the change from the centric dry goods supplier is because our hobby and our industry needed a change. Like the standard of care just wasn't there. There is some great innovators that came across that are very niche like me. Like Miss King is a great example. He was one of the first people to introduce automation into this industry that honestly, everybody knows that the time you put into your reptile, is building your relationship with your reptile, but at the same time, it's also providing them a schedule. Mm-hmm. You and I both know that reptiles love schedules. They love a set schedule. They love their seasons. And, it's those little remarkable entrepreneurs that bring that different light into our industry. That's really what drove me. And honestly, at the lowest point of my life, to just go push all my chips in and go for, just our overall mission statement, and what I, and now what all of my team embodies every single day.
Well, let's explore that decision, because you made the decision to go into a very specific area, bioactive. That is what we call serious niching down. And tell us about the decision to go into that and just go all in on that one specific niche.
So the best way that I can put it, about 2 months before I closed my first business with my brother, I missed a month payment on my rent. I was down here by myself in Houston. I was 2 months behind on my electric. I didn't have my health insurance. I had my pug. He needed $500 in meds a week or a month. He was my support system down here. So it was like my parents were begging me to come home. Like they were on the phone, like saying, Josh, like you tried, you did your best. It's just, it didn't work out. And when I closed everything with Genesis, my credit score was 500. I had a broken Toyota Camry that was falling apart. And I had $4,000 of personal credit card debt. And I was sitting around at the table with my wife, which I'm going to say this right now. If it was not for my wife, I would not be sitting here talking to you. And I sure as heck wouldn't be as successful as I am right now if it wasn't for her support. Because at that point, my self-confidence, it was at an all-time low. I mean, I had no confidence in myself, but I was sitting around at the table and with my friends, and I was like, this is what I wanted out of Genesis, and I didn't freaking get it. I didn't make the changes I wanted to make. Yeah, I sold people some dart frogs, but I didn't change any standard. I didn't try to set any precedent of the standard of what these animals deserve. I'm so tired of seeing Pac-Man frogs every 2 weeks die from water imbalances from the really acidic pure cocoa coir that has dominated the shelves for the past 30 years. And, it turned into me, my wife, and my friend Mike and Cody sitting around at a table after I closed with all those negative things around me. And they're like, you cannot give up. You have something special. You can do it. You just need to just try it again. And we watched The Big Lebowski that night. And that is one of my all-time favorite movies besides Office Space. My friends call me the dude. I have a pretty laid-back personality. It's talking to me kind of, I'm a hyper dude. But when it comes to situations and stuff, I try to be as calm and reserved. And that's how we came up with the name the BioDude. And I can actually show you right here. My wife actually framed this for me. This was the inceptual drawing that night at 2:30 in the morning. And that was on December 13th, 2016.
Okay.
I remember it.
I
remember it down to the second.
That's just a couple of weeks before
and Mike helped
you started
me,
your new company.
It was. I built an entire website, a new brand, mixed my formulas, and got everything launched for a rudimentary launch in about 2 weeks. And those 2 weeks, I think I slept about 12 hours the whole week, each week.
All right.
Not getting paid, not having any money with my wife. Luckily, at that point, she was out of school, so she's a veterinarian. So, she was able to support me while I was dealing with all of the disadvantages. So then BioDude was born in my house, and that's how it all started.
How do you crawl out of that hole? And you talked about emotionally, and that's a huge thing. But financially, how do you build a business when you're that far down?
So it was very hard to get a credit card. Let me tell you, I got a Capital One Spark card with a 23.5% or 23 something interest rate on it, $1,000 limit. I got a Home Depot credit card with a 30% interest rate. $500.
Oh, $500.
And my dad actually sent me, I think it was my dad, sent me some money to help me cover the expenses of my overhead of the website. I sold my Toyota Camry to give me the VIN here. It's a local business here in Houston. I got $3,000 cash for it. I took that $3,000 and I bought a Chrysler Town & Country minivan. And I removed all of the seats. And when you're driving it, because it had absolutely no suspension whatsoever. So I'm driving this van. This was in summer of Texas. And I then used some of that. I bought the van, got it insured, got all my stuff incorporated, to the LLC, all that stuff. And then I rented a storage unit. That was about 5 miles away from my house. Went out and bought a kiddie pool, a shovel, and my substrate ingredients. And these were the mixes I've been using since first I started taking dirt from outside. And then I figured out a more economical way for me to do it at home. And that's how my mixes were born. There's years and years and years and years of just rocking and rolling with it. And I remember I had to hand mix those substrates with a shovel in a kiddie pool, hand bag them, load up my van, go back to my house, take care of the animals, take care of the emails, package the orders, close out the day. It was a 12 to 14 hour day every day, Monday through Sunday. My wife let our house turn into 80% of the business. And I also remember mixing a batch of Terra Sahara in that storage unit with one plug when it was 115 degrees in that little storage unit, hand mixing a batch that weighs over 2,000 pounds by hand. I remember I had to do that for 6 months straight, dude.
Oh.
And it was worth it. I wouldn't, looking back, I would do it all over again if I had to. And I did that for 6 months straight until I finally was comfortable enough in myself to essentially find a warehouse that was really close to my home and move 100% of my business out of my house and into a commercial space. And that was a condition for me. If I was running my business, I gave myself 8 months. I said, Josh, if you run your business for 8 months and you are not strong enough to get it out of your house in 8 months to grow it, then perhaps this career path isn't for you. And I really stuck to that. And I just got a lot of support from my wife, because throughout my 5 years, well, just this, there have been a lot of times when you're just beat down on so many levels, on things out of your control, and you just accept it for what it is and you don't fall back, you fall forward. I live my entire philosophy is don't fall back, fall forward. At least when you fall forward, you can see where you're going.
All right, Josh, you are making up these bags of soil, but it's January 1st, 2017, right? I got that. So at that point, you start your company. Nobody knows who you are. You've got a website that is less than 2 weeks old, and you're selling dirt. How in the world do you sell your first bag?
Dirt. So I do have a YouTube channel, and my basis of my YouTube channel, it was never to be a YouTuber. All it was, like, I literally just monetized it 3 months ago.
Okay.
And I've been in business and I have like 60-some thousand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just never wanted to do it. That's not who we are. It's not who I am. I just wanted to put the info out there for people just to understand what our mission statement is. And it's providing the best care rather than the basic care, using research-driven practices and techniques. That is our entire foundation. And, the biggest thing that I knew is, for me to make a change in our community, the brand had to be relatable. People had to get with the brand and get a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling from it to be able to get that conversion. Had to be catchy, had to work. And that's how we came up with Dude, because everyone calls me Dude, people know me. So that's how, we kind of wanted to push that. So, and my friend Mike, who helped me sitting at that round table, he built websites like for a living. So he was able to give me really good guidance on how to put in, your SEO, how to, build different collections using different types of keywords if you know your demographic well enough to know how they search. So I had a lot of positive support to actually get that first conversion. But it's interesting enough is it wasn't my soils that gave me my conversions immediately. It was my diets, and it was my bug rub, my media that I transferred over from Genesis to BioDude, selling fruit fly culturing kits. But, that was little. It took about a month to get my substrates going. And then I would say after I moved into my commercial space, did my first warehouse walkthrough video and stuff, that's when we really I started seeing growth. And that's when I started bringing in a lot more employees, getting things going. And, I will say it was pretty crazy because I wasn't expecting it to happen that quickly. But I also knew that if I executed my mission statement and goal effectively, what happened is exactly what should have happened, because you're trying to create a relatable brand to inspire change in the community you care about. It wasn't perceived that way by some people. Mm-hmm. Like, there was an entire Facebook group like completely against me and what we're doing because we're, a money monger trying to profiteer off dirt. Wait. And within a community,
I always say you're nobody until somebody hates you. You had an entire You had an entire Facebook group hating you.
Yeah. It was called the bioactive it's like rare amphibian bioactive setups or reptile amphibian bioactive setups or something. And there's a select group of moderators that were just, this guy's terrible and blah blah blah. And initially, that really bothered me. Initially, I was like, what the heck is wrong with these people? I'm not doing anything. I'm just trying to make a living. And this was before I had my daughter and before there was before I bought my building, significantly less risk. Mm-hmm. Okay. But initially, then after all that, it started weighing on me. And I was like, I'm just trying to better it here. You need a commercial base to make a change. You can't expect a guy who has a 10-year-old kid that just bought him a bearded dragon to go to Home Depot and try to figure out what dirt to mix together to not hurt his animal. That's not going to happen. So how do you change that standard to elevate it to be an actual high standard of care for an intelligent animal that needs environmental enrichment? And that's what really drove all of us. So like, I'm not on social media at all. Like I do have like a personal Instagram account that I like share pictures of my daughter, mainly for like my family that lives up in Pennsylvania and stuff like that. But for my mental health, a couple years ago, that was something that I really needed to do, was just to remove that self, because it was such a distraction. You know, instead of me focusing on the goals and directives that I had here, I kept worrying about what other people were thinking. And then I was watching a stand-up, my wife, it was Cat Williams. And, you know, he was doing his little ramblings that he does. And he said, you know, if you wake up in the morning and you don't have any haters, you better be looking at yourself in the mirror and figuring out how to have 16 haters by the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, they have nothing else to do but hate. And if you don't have any haters, you aren't doing anything with your life.
This is true.
And when he said that, it was kind of like a slap in the face. I don't know, but like something clicked upstairs. And since then, I've been great. And you know, we have overwhelming support from community that I've created, the existing community, whether they support me or not. It's not about business. Well, it is for me, but you know, it's not about the business as a whole. It's about what changes we're making in the community to better the critters that honestly for the past 30 years have been getting the crap end of the stick, because it's all about selling a wild caught import. It's gonna die. They put stuff in there that's only meant to last a couple weeks because it's just a complete cycle. So the whole disposable animal thing was just a stigma that has to change. It isn't a cheap hobby. It should have never, ever, ever been a cheap hobby.
I agree with that.
At this point, it should be a luxury hobby. It's a hobby that you undertake in when you want to share something special with your family that you're willing to put the money into, or, you know, you care for those animals like it's your dog, you know, or it's your cat, because just because they aren't domesticated doesn't mean that they don't have a level of intelligence that exceeds a dog, just in a way that we don't understand. It's just that whole stigma and perception, that is what really we wanted to change here. And it's great now seeing Exoterra has their own bioactive line, ZoomEd has their own bioactive line, Galapagos has their own bioactive line. That is amazing, because what that shows is that as an industry, it's migrating towards a positive direction. Whereas in my opinion, it's been kind of stagnant. Here's Miss King innovating. Here we go. Here's Pangea innovating. Here we go. You know, things like that. It's just once in a blue moon. And now it's just with the data at our fingertips. There's so many positive changes happening. And I personally like to think that BioDude had a small part in that change. And that feels really good, because that was our goal all along.
Well, at what point did you have that feeling that you have made a change, that you sat down and say, wait a minute, this feels good. I think I've actually started to make a change?
Honestly, when the Dallas Zoo called me wanting to redo their entire butterfly exhibit, or not butterfly, their arachnid room, which had, a couple years ago, that had like 30 massive enclosures for the open public. That showed me that we were gaining legitimacy and trust in the brand. To show that we're not putting garbage in a bag and trying to sell it to you. We're doing our absolute best to have clean, good, valued products. But honestly, that was a turning point. But I think watching my YouTube channel grow, like my first year, I think I watched it go from 10,000 to like 20,000. Okay. And then since then, it just keeps, growing, and then getting that feedback from our customers that We have customers send us videos of their kids setting up the enclosure and losing their minds because the nurturing of the human animal bond that kid is getting from setting up the enclosure, and they know it's going to work, and they know that they're providing great care, they're following all the steps that we recommend. That is when you know you made a difference, because you just inspired somebody of a younger generation to get into an amazing hobby. And one thing as in this industry that anybody trying to get their feet in needs to understand is that you are a part of it. Your decisions that you make once you get to a particular scale have severe implications for the rest of the community. And other members of the community, businesses, they're not your enemies. You work collectively with them to give a 2 + 2 = 5 approach for the betterment of the community. That's something I really can't stress that enough, how important that is to want to be a part of it. But at the end of the day, it's all about creating your own demographic. Like most of my customers that I bring in, they are customers that I've created out of the knowledge that I've put out of the videos that I've put out. And I got to be honest with you, we have a lot of families that come here, that come into my showroom just for the experience, that want to show their kids. Like I have one of my favorite animals here is a breadlie python. So I had a pair of breadlie pythons for 9 years. And when I moved from Pennsylvania to Texas, I had to give them to a friend of mine. And that was probably because I physically could not afford nor take their 7-foot cages with me in my Toyota Camry. Because when I moved to Texas, I sold everything I had. I moved to Texas with my dog, my wife's cat, my Xbox, my TV, and the clothes on my back. That's it. With a couple clothes. I sold everything I had. And when I sold them, that was terrible. And now that I have, I got another breadlie, like they're still alive, like they're doing great. And if I had the space here to get them back, to be able to give them the 14-foot enclosure that I'd want to give them, then yeah, I would. But right now we have, my other Mr. Smithers, he's about 7 feet long, and he's the number one attraction here because he's always out basking and he's always out looking, and he's extremely docile. So we have families coming in with kids that are afraid of snakes, and we show him Mr. Smithers, and their mindset changes. On the side, I have a nonprofit called the Reptile Experience, and I do Boy Scout troops and youth groups and stuff, and I take my animals there, and I just talk about them, let the kids see them, and it just gives the younger audience a better, fond understanding of these animals, because there's a lot of misconceptions as well as an appreciation. We see a black rat snake outside. We're not going to go cut its head off. We're going to understand that snake is not a keystone species, but it is an integral part to the ecosystem to control the rodent population. So, it's all about changing minds, man.
Talk about growing, and you grew pretty quickly. Tell us about some of those growth points, because, and just to set the stage for our listeners and viewers, when you develop something that you're doing in your house, your room in the house or in a storage area, there comes a time where you have to actually invest so you can grow. And that's a huge point in a business's life, because there's some risk. Josh, what were some of the milestones for you in growth?
So milestones in growth for me was my second year when we crossed 1 million to under 2 years. And that was halfway through the second year. And I thought that blew my mind. When, we went from 3 employees to 8 at that point. Actually, that was at the end of the second year. A big one recently a big one was buying my building. Like, I bought it. I don't rent it. I straight bought it. I apologize if that, I don't know how that's happening. That was the scariest thing I've ever done, was buying it. But when I was looking, it's all triple net leases. The square footage I needed, it was like $10,000 a month plus the property taxes and the insurance. I'm like, that's freaking stupid. And it doesn't do anything for me. I don't get any assets. I don't get, it doesn't turn into equity as I pay for it. So why would I give somebody else money and have them get equity out of it? So is what really drove my decision to, buy this place instead of just renting it. That was a huge deal. And then recently, going to Tinley Park, because it's very expensive for us to vend at Tinley Park because our dirt is heavy. So, when you look at, and if you ask me, I'll get into the struggles of manufacturing and shipping heavy substrate. But, I would say, those moments, and getting health insurance. Got health insurance a year and a half ago. We have an HMO and PPO, and that was by far that's one of my biggest accomplishments for me personally. Because when I was a veterinary technician, man, you have no human resources, you don't make any money, and you felt underappreciated, and the benefits were never any good. And one of my my personal cores, when I started my business, was I am never going to have my employees intentionally going to have my employees feel the way that I felt my pre-business owner career. Because I worked in warehouses, I worked in the vet field, so I had a lot of different dabbles in a lot of different types of industries within those fields, and it was always the same feeling that I had, and I just, to be able to do that, like people here, the whole family relies on it, and that's a lot on you, because you have to make sure that you do your job. Because at this point in the scale that my business is now, it's not just if I fail, well, too bad, Josh, you tried. It's you failed and 17 people lost their benefits and they lost their health insurance. And I've had people that worked for me for hitting their 4-year mark. So, that's another accomplishment, man. Having people stay through all of the headaches and challenges and turmoil that a new business faces each year, that they recognize that there's something here, and they recognize that if I stay, we will progress with the company.
How about your decision to bring on that first employee, and how do you do that?
Cool. So my very first employee, his name is Andy. I'm actually still acquaintances with him. He now owns his own business in San Antonio growing mushrooms and stuff, man. But I know, he told me before he left, he's like, dude, all the stuff I learned from shipping, I'm putting it right into my mushroom business that I'm starting. And sorry, I digressed. What went into that was moving into that new space and starting to understand overhead a little bit more clearly, understanding that you have to start establishing processes. So he was on a 1099. I actually didn't get W-2 employees until I became an LLC. So I was a sole proprietor until month 7. And then my accountant was like, you need to become an LLC. You have to. And the accountant was actually my father. He helped me out when I was first starting, with my QuickBooks and all that. And again, if it wasn't for my dad doing that too, wouldn't be here. I got to drop his name in here, Doug Halter. But getting him on was really scary. But he also understood that we were just getting going. Then shortly after he came on, we got 2 more people. I believe it was 2 or 3, Brandon, W, and AJ. And AJ is still with me, which is great. And I brought them on, and then I realized that I was like, well, they were on a 1099. Technically, it's not. You're not supposed to run your business on 1099s in Texas. Trump's the president. He doesn't really care about that. But if the office changes, they're going to put a lot more money into tracking I-9s and tracking OSHA and all that crap. So I realized to have a successful, scalable business, your employee processes have to be sound. So I got them. I came in LLC, got them on W-2s, and offered PTO. You accrue it, and that was the very first thing that I got. And then we continued to grow. And then I started really looking at the processes to start automating it, getting giant mixers to mix the soil instead of us having to mix it with a freaking shovel. Manufacturing my own boxes was a big deal. My entire shipping line is 100% recycled, 100%, even to the stuffing that we use in the boxes. When we made that transition, I was able to get my box charges down significantly, which allowed me to have a lower shipping cost. So then I was able to lower the lower shipping cost into my actual thing. That allowed me to open up more jobs, to be able to continue to add in more SKUs, more kits, and better processes. And during that time, we were adding a little bit more people and expanding the warehouse space to the unit next door. I knocked the wall down, connected them both together. Started making departments, shipping, manufacturing, customer care. And my property manager, Amber, she was my first customer care person. Okay. And she manages the whole gig. She doesn't have any experience in managing a business, but she's been here for so long and understands everything that I'm able to get what I need from her to be able to run it the way that I need to get it. And that's also really awesome too, because some of the people that I have in the positions that they have here, they don't have degrees. They just got out of high school. They have a high school degree, and I'm able to offer salaried jobs, with full benefits. And
yeah, that's significant.
That's a great feeling, to do that. But it's also a burden. Yeah. It's a burden on your shoulders as an owner every week, every single week, because they get paid first, you get paid second. And you have to be okay with not taking a paycheck. There are times I went 6-8 months without getting a single cent. Yeah. And that is hard. And right now, in our current recession, this year, I've taken one check all year so far. 2 checks at 50% all year so far. Really sucks, because I have a 1-year-old at home. My wife's student loans are $4,500 a month because she's a doctor, and it costs $400,000 to become a freaking veterinarian. So for her and I, for home life, that was when I wasn't getting anything, then she was able to support. And then as I was able to grow with my end, that I was able to give her to be able to pay on her loans. So I can't stress how important family is when you start your own business, and how important it is to be able to separate the two out. It's really easy to have your business in your house, but then you never, ever have a work-life balance. And that is so bad for you mentally and physically. Having some animals because you love them, that's a little different. But a dry goods business like me, no, absolutely not. Which is why I gave myself that 7 or 8 month deadline to be able to get it out, to prove to myself I could take to that point. But there is, definitely hardships that come with it.
All right. Well, this is a point that I really want to let's get down on. How do you balance the demands of creating a business and keeping your family relationships? That's a very important point.
You have to set boundaries for yourself. So one thing that was very hard for me, and I'm going to be very honest with you, my paternity leave almost put us out of business. We had not put us out of business. That might be an exaggeration, but it put my business in a very, 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 very bad spot. The manager that I had before, when I went on my paternity leave, they just stopped caring and doing their thing. And we had some complications with Carolyn. So I was down and out for about almost a month during that time, trying to work remotely, and when I came back, we were a month and a half behind wholesale. We were 500 orders back on a business that was getting 115 orders a day. I had staff that just weren't doing it. And I came back with the stress of home, with my wife recovering, with my brand new daughter, first time dad. And I came back to work to a very difficult challenge. But I put my feet down, bid in, and we fixed it in 2 months. And because of that, we were really able to prioritize and get our processes to be double efficient. So it was a blessing in disguise. So when you go through these hardships in your life as a business owner, in whatever field you're in, you don't fall back, you fall forward. You use the problem that you had and you turn it into a positive outcome, even though it may not feel like that at the time. And, I got to bring that home because, when I'm at home, my phone, my phone goes into our bedroom, I shut the door. And if I want to play, I love my video games. When I actually have a moment, I'll go home and I'll play some Fallout or some Last of Us or some Demon Souls or something for 30 minutes to 45 minutes just to turn my brain off. But there are some problems that you just can't get it out. No matter what you do, no matter what it is, whether it's comes from an employee bringing in problems or whether it comes from a supply chain issue that's completely out of your control, you have to be able to leave those things at home or at the door at your work. And when you come home, it is time with my wife and it is time with my daughter. And there were some instances this year and a little bit last year that I failed at that aspect, that I know I could have done a little bit better. But it was also because I had a lot of stuff going on. When you have employees, you have turnover. When you have employees, you have headaches that come from different personality types that you have to be able to balance out appropriately, so that way they get extrinsic value out of their jobs. That is extremely challenging task, and you have to be able to be accepting of a lot of different things and be able to leave it at that door. But if you come home and it's always on your shoulders, and you're not able to leave it there, it will mentally destroy you. It will, for me, it caused me mentally to just not be as efficient. I was like in a funk, I guess is the best way to put it. And, instead of focusing that you as a business are in a slump or you're dealing with this problem and you feel like you shouldn't be, use your home life to substantiate the positives out of your business by focusing on the things that make you happy with your home life. So that way, when you're with your family or doing what you love to do at home, your thought is, I'm really lucky that I have a healthy daughter that's walking and talking and loves her dad. There are some people that would love to have that opportunity and they can't. So you gotta take those little things that you get and just be happy with that and accept what is, accept the things you can't change, and move forward in a positive direction.
Okay. All right, Josh, now it's time to talk about dirt. Apparently there's a lot more than just mixing brown stuff. Just tell us a little bit about that business.
Okay. Number one is safety. A batch of Sahara, a single batch is 1,100 pounds. We do 2 batches at a time, and we have to load the stuff. So number one, it's dusty. So there's a lot of safety respirators. You have to have specific back things. So safety was a huge deal because as a business, you have to make sure that you are providing a safe working environment for your employees, or that can really impact your ability to scale. Number two is the sustainability of your products that you're using in your dirt. When they are pulled from the environment, are they destructive? Do they impact global warming? Do they, is it unsustainable or is it sustainable? And then you have to look at the shipping. So the biggest challenge that I have to scale is when you look at every other, I hate saying competitors, but I'm going to say competitors, okay? When you look at other businesses in this space, it's all You spend $100, $6 flat rate shipping, spend $100 free shipping. Most of those guys, 5% of what they ship is over 40 or 50 pounds, 10%, because they're shipping things that are 5 pounds, 10 pounds. So their shipping rate's like $12, depending on what type of discounted rates they're getting. That's not the case for me. 75% of what I ship out weighs over 40 pounds. And you just can't put that stuff in a cheap box. It has to be a thick corrugated box with a high crush rating that can handle the impact of FedEx, UPS, that can handle being thrown. That is very expensive. Very, 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 very expensive. And then on top of that, the sustainability of the ingredients is very, very, very challenging because it changes year after year after year. Just from beginning of 2021 to now, my costs have went up over 35% just for the ingredients. Now, that doesn't even include labor. I import from, I get stuff from Canada, I get stuff from South America, I get stuff from China. I watch my container price go from $3,000 to $22,000. I have to shell out this money and it takes 5 to 6 months to get to me. It's very unsustainable. It's not that it's unsustainable, it's just very hard to manage. So problem that we're having, it's something that I've been really working towards is trying to have a better, trying to maintain the products that are in my ingredients that I'm using that go into my substrates to make sure that they are having not a negative impact on how they're being harvested. So, that's something that I'm continually trying to evaluate as supply goes up and goes down and goes up and goes down to the point when that product may not be even available anymore to be able to get because of just all whatever regulations or whatever changes or the fact that, that they can't harvest it because the winter because the seasons were slightly different. So they weren't able to harvest the normal amount that they were able to get. And then what happens is then that drives, the price completely up. But at the same time, we also have to make sure that we're not, charging an obscene amount of money for our product. When I started BioDude, I never wanted to be, I did not want to be the Dollar General of reptile supplies because I feel like that is the antithesis of what this industry deserves. It's like I said before, it shouldn't be a cheap hobby. It should never have been a cheap hobby to me. So when I built my products, I was okay using more expensive ingredients. I was okay using harder to source ingredients because I didn't want to be the Kia. I wanted to be the Mercedes. And I wanted that ideology to seep into the overall demographic that I'm catering to. Like right now in my mixes, I'm using like sphagnum peat moss. And I have been testing for 2 years now, alternatives. And I am very close to eliminating it entirely from my mixes. Because at this point, everybody knows the bog pits hold a ton of natural carbon in the thing, which helps reduce CO2 in the atmosphere, which helps with global warming. I don't think I need, everybody knows the climate problem. Like it's not, I don't want to be a part of that problem. Okay. I don't want to support, that end of it that could be potentially part of that problem. And, and just like everything else, we have watched that product disappear. Almost entirely hard to get because of seasons changing and not enough truck drivers to get the stuff from point A to point B or just the overall demand. So that's extremely challenging for me because when you own a dirt business and you're shipping really heavy things, it's, you want to do your best to have your products be light, but at the same time without compromising your quality. And this comes with scaling. So when you go to scale your business, there's going to be times when you're going to look at this at a major thing that you need and have been using for years. You're going to be like, well, crap, I can't use this. This isn't sustainable. This isn't scalable. And that's when you have to really dig down deep and believe in yourself that you don't compromise your integrity, that you stay like with your overall mission statement of your business while still imbuing that positive change in the community. So,
what would compromising your integrity look like?
Using ingredients that aren't good, that like using ingredients or using things that could cause more harm than good. So let's say that I wanted to create a Pac-Man frog substrate. I know that I could get my costs down significantly. I'm using the Pac-Mans because we literally see it every freaking day. Is I could cut costs significantly by using cocoa coir instead of some other things and cutting that cocoa coir with things like orchid bark and X, Y, and Z. But I know that orchid bark can get super acidic, or not orchid bark, cocoa coir can get super acidic. And when you have a sedentary fossorial amphibian or reptile, when they sit there, that acidity can mess with their water balance on their skin, which then can lead to improper osmosis. And then from there, when their water balance gets off, they just tank very quickly. But that only really happens if the people don't change out the substrate every 2 weeks, or people that don't pay attention to their animals. Our whole philosophy is to have the substrate work with any level of keeper for success. Because if your product has like a flaw in it that a particular percentage of your demographic is going to fail using it, you got to rethink of what you're doing, especially when you're trying to change a way of thinking. So that's big for me when I say compromising integrity. I don't want a particular percentage of people when they use the product because they don't read the directions that they fail. As well as unsustainable ingredients that honestly, cause harm to our planet, when here I am trying to provide a better standard of care for the animals that inhabit the planet. It kind of makes me feel like a hypocrite if I would do that. So, but at the same time, when you make a change or when you do anything, you don't just do it and launch it. You got to go through testing. You got to make sure that, the manufacturing process for the change, we have to get air quality checks with OSHA to see if we have to change the respirators that my crew wears. If the type of mixers, if that's going to change the weight, and then how that's going to change the whole shipping logistics formula that I use for flat rate. So it's like, it's not just like a little change. And it also goes back to what I was saying with, what I do with the scale that I am, that has consequences to the outside of the community. Like my goal for the substrates is I'm going to have, I'm very about 70% of the way, is we're eliminating stickers on printed bags, like the MyPillow guy. Okay. You ever see those pillows with the MyPillow? It's going to be printed bags like that, but they're going to have a guaranteed analysis in it. When I say guaranteed analysis, I mean, it's not only going to have an ingredient list, but it's going to have a guaranteed NPK, the whole breakdown of what the consumer can exactly expect from the substrate to further substantiate what we're trying to accomplish here by bringing legitimacy to reptile products. Because, you can have people in the industry just bring in, anybody can call a manufacturer, get a brick of coconut fiber and put a sticker on it. People have been doing that for 30 years. It's about continually setting a higher standard for everybody else to follow. There's a lot of other businesses that do that in this space, a lot of other businesses. And it's so refreshing to see because, your business has to bring a positive change to the community. If your business is just existing in this space, what are you doing? It's that 2 + 2 = 5. That is during all of our management meetings, I drill that into my management team every Friday morning. We're actually all reading a book right now by a sports journalist. It's called "It's Better to Be Feared." And it's about a guy that followed the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, followed them his entire career as the Patriots, of their leadership and management styles and how both parties adapted their leadership skills and qualifications to create a winning locker room. And that's something that I try to imbue here, is how can we symbolically or metaphorically put that into how we run our business here to make our employees grow with us, so that way in their careers that they get extrinsic and intrinsic value, but also, still following our overall, goals. I think I answered the question. I apologize if I danced around there.
Well, let's go to the entrepreneurs that are starting businesses in today's day and age. What kind of insight, perspective, and advice would you have to them?
One is never give up and always believe in yourself. The only one holding you back is you. That's it for me. Number two is follow an ethical floor print. It's very easy to buy wild caught animals, buy a booth at a show for $150 and sell a green basilisk to a 10-year-old for $20. I have a deep loathing for businesses like that. And it's been made aware. People have heard me put that out there, but is follow an ethical floor print that will provide a positive change for the community. Whether that's breeding snakes, whether it's creating a YouTube channel to share your knowledge base with the community to make their journey easier. There are YouTube channels dedicated to just DIY substrates. And that's amazing, because not everybody is going to want to buy from a business, because not everybody has extra money to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, in this community, there's still going to be people that have the animals that, not saying they shouldn't have them, but they may not be fiscally capable of providing everything that they need. And there are just young people coming out trying to make a small name for themselves, whether it's monetizing YouTube or whatever, just putting reptile life hacks out there just to make keeping interesting and to help alleviate their bottom line while providing really good care. And not be afraid of things out of your control, because no matter what you do, there will always be a laundry list of things out of your control. I can't tell you the drastic change and challenges that, from turnover last year to rising prices to figuring out how to manage coronavirus here, because we were in Texas. I don't know if y'all know, but Texas was a lot like New York.
Yes.
It was an absolute, because our governor did not give a crap about it. He did not care. And many, 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 many small businesses went out because of it. And you don't hear about that on the news, though. And, don't be afraid of those challenges, because at the end of the day, being an entrepreneur, I can never say it, speech impediment. It's not just about what you're trying to goal, but you personally will grow and change every day. The person that I was 5 years ago is gone. That was a completely different Josh in the aspect. I still have my drive of risk. I still have X, Y, and Z, but how I handle challenges, how I deal with distractions, how I communicate with people, how I try not to be reactive, but proactive. Those are all things that my journey has thrown the challenges a slap across the face. And there were some situations that I really wish I would have done better, but you fall forward. So you use those situations as fuel, so that way it doesn't happen again. Or if it happens again, you can handle yourself in a more professional way, or in a way that provides you personal growth with your career and in your personal persona.
All right. So what's in the future for BioDude? Where are you going now?
Yeah. So There's a lot. I have completely outgrown this building. It's about 2 acres, or I don't even know how much land it's on, but like there's not an inch of space left in this building. I did find a perfect building that I was going to buy. It was around 1.9 million. It's like 25,000 square feet. I decided not to pull the trigger on it because I got to be honest with you, I was really unsure of I was very unsure of our government, just because of how drastic things have changed in the last year and a half, 2 years, whether it's positive or negative. But right now I'm still searching for that right building that provides me the price that I want, that I'm comfortable going into with the current state of the economy. And that is more of a calculated risk that I'm taking. Like right now, like I have no desire to go $5 million in debt. I have no desire to do that. But if I find the right building that I know that I can shape to do what I want, I'll go 2.5, no problem. You just have to make that correct calculated decision, and that's what I'm looking for right now. My goal, and some people may not like this, I am really trying to, I feel like our mission statement of starting to change our community towards a better ethical standard of reptile keeping, it hasn't been accomplished all the way, but it's made enormous strides. And to really hit that home, I love my retail store, and I'm always going to have my retail store. One day I might open one up in Austin, Texas. It's something that I've considered. That's why I have the BioDude Houston after my retail space here, because I hope to have a BioDude Austin. But what I really want to try and turn my business into is a distribution business, meaning that, we have a lot of clients, and I love my personal customers, but I know that I could make more of a difference with a continually growing YouTube channel. And I have a business model like Exoterra, when we are a distributor of BioDude products, my products, and we sell to stores. We sell on Amazon, and Amazon ships my stuff for me. So I'm very close to getting FOB, or whatever the heck they call it, FBA. I can't.
Fulfilled by Amazon.
Like
yes.
So that way I can be Prime next day shipping. Thank you. We are right on that cusp. I have to figure out a little bit more processes, and that comes with the bags. But like this year, I'm really focusing on my existing SKUs and making them more efficient in the manufacturing process, as well as updating our packaging. So this year, I'm really hitting our packaging to have, guaranteed. So on my diets, guaranteed analysis, ingredient list. That's going to be done by the end of the first quarter. Substrates, I hope to have done by the end of the year with completely new packaging, with high standards of packaging, with what all products should have in the first place in an industry, to further reinforce the professional aspect of what this industry needs to have, and hopefully continue to grow our wholesale base to the point when BioDude's entire model of sustainability is off of distribution. And if, we'll still have our point of sale selling kits. As those point of sales grow, I expand out my point of sale footprint. But I hate to say it, I hope the BioDude.com in 1.5 years to 2 years is a vendor. I log in, I buy to just sell the BioDude products, and that's what I do. Because I know I personally can have more of a positive impact with the community that way than while still trying to scale the online end of things. While I love doing it, it's just, I just see a more streamlined business model going that route. And it's a model that I can appreciate more, because I feel like that's going to set me up and my employees up for more growth in their careers here. Because, my goal isn't to walk away, close it with a ton of money. That's not my goal. My goal is to give the keys to my daughter when she's 18 years old, and she's been working with me for 6 years. For 6 years. And then if she wants to sell the business, she can sell it. If she wants to walk away, she can walk away. If this isn't what she wants, well, then I'll make another decision. But I know that I really can't emphasize the level, how it feels to have the team that I do. It's, the people that really believe in you, like, last year when I had a pretty bad one come through here last year and lost some people. It lost some money because of that person. And I was pretty down about that because I invested a significant amount of money and I just kind of got worked over. And I had all the warning signs for it. And I just chose to ignore it. And, that's okay. But the first people that came to have my back to remind me to fall forward were my staff. And I have staffers. I have there's AJ, Christina, Amber, Dom, Tiffany. 4 years. I think that's what they've been here since inception. And looking at just how a small business retains employees, man, if it wasn't for them and my wife and my dad, I can take some credit, but you're only as good as the people that support you when you own your own business. And it is such an overwhelming feel of happiness. But I got to tell you guys, the moment you have people that care about you and you care about them too, and you are faced with difficult decisions, if it's layoffs, if it's growing and changing management, or if it's firing, or if it's just getting a level of support, that weight on your shoulders never goes away, because at the end of the day, your business is not about you anymore. I said this before. It is about the 17 people that use my business to feed their families. When my dad came down and visited me last year, he walked around and he was like, Josh, he's like, how does that feel? And, he literally said that. And that's when it really clicked, because it's, you think about it and you don't ever think about failing or letting those people, having that go. But, with it comes hard decisions, and I also want to put out there, trust in the relationships you build with other businesses. Zach and Rose of cages.com, they have been huge mentors to me for over 4 years so far, give or take. Zach and Rose have helped me problem solve things that I don't know if I would have been able to do that. They helped me manufacture the cages that I offer here on my website. And guys, those relationships that you build with other keepers and hobbyists and businesses, I can't stress how important it is to be able to reinforce those relationships and to believe in those relationships, that if you're ever in a bind or if you ever need help, they got your back and they'll be ready to help you. And, it's never a problem. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help from those people. Don't ever be afraid that you're cornered in a room and you feel like you have no support. I have 17 people out there that believe in me and what I'm trying to do, even though last month was just rough. And every day I get reminded, hey man, you're doing a great job, or, thank you for trying. Thank you for trying to make our jobs easier. Thank you for X, Y, and Z. Zach and Rose just came down. They just drove all the way from Minnesota to come and see me, to help me close out a deal with Arm and Bayou. It was a collective deal with both of us. And they got stuck in that snowstorm last week. So they made a 32-hour drive down here just to come see me. That level of it's unbelievable
when you have that support from other people in the industry. And I'm going to segue this into some territory that I didn't let you know that we were going into. But you keep mentioning about how
Okay.
we work together, how we aren't competitors. It's something I've talked about on this
Yep.
podcast before. It's something I believe, but here's an open philosophical question for you. And maybe nobody has the answer. So we're just talking now.
Absolutely.
How do we do that? Naturally, we all want to. You look at the community, and it's so easy to look at us and say, we want to win, we want to beat people, and the only way we win is if we beat somebody. Not that we succeed in our business, but humans have this concept that succeeding in our business means we have to be enemies with somebody who's doing the same thing. Believe me, I have a caging business. If anybody wants to start a caging business, first thing they do is pick a fight with me and make me an enemy. If I can just be minding my own business, and all of a sudden I've got a new enemy.
Yep.
Where we're not, we're in the same business, but there's so many people out there who need cages. It's not like we're stealing customers. The market's too big for all of us.
Yep. So that goes to what I said before. As a business, you create your own demographic. You create your own customers with your brand, with what you bring to the table as a business in betterment of the community. And that way is what gives you that 2 + 2 = 5 approach. That's like one of my favorite Radiohead songs, and then I like Radiohead and Tool are my inspirations. But going back to what you asked, I've been guilty of this myself. So here's an example.
Hello all, I'm sorry for this interruption, but I want to give some background to what you're about to hear. We're talking about competition, and Josh is now relating a story of when someone who owned a business came and started asking him questions about his bioactive line. And now Josh is going to share with us his feelings as to what happened when that business owner came out with their own bioactive line. And Josh had feelings that this wasn't right. Now, I've come in as the editor and I've removed some of the personal details because you don't want that kind of thing sitting on a video or a podcast forever, because there's always two sides to every story and there's no reason to create animosity that's forever digitally enshrined. And so I wanted to remove that, but give you the background because I wanted to keep the conversation that came afterwards as Josh talked about how he dealt with that. And that's something that we as business owners and entrepreneurs are going to run into all the time. If you are successful, there is no way to stop people from copying you. Yes, there's patents, but you can't patent everything. People will copy what you do, and they won't give you credit for it. In fact, they're going to act as though they came up with it. And they're going to talk about how important the feature was to them and make it seem like it's original. And so if you're going to be doing business, there's going to be no way for you to get around somebody copying you either outright or in concept. And so I wanted to keep this part in where Josh was talking about how he dealt with somebody who got information from him to essentially be a better competitor. So we're going to cut right back into Josh talking about finding out that this person who was talking to them has just released a bioactive product.
Reached out to me, was asking me a lot of open-ended questions. I never talked to this guy before in my life, but I respect him. I respect his business. I love what they're doing. And then I saw that and it made me feel like maybe, that wasn't supposed to be positive. Now I know, but then I reacted and I hid all my stuff from that person. Was because I was just like, this doesn't feel right. And initially I was like, well, what the heck? But then I realized I was just like, but dude, you're getting mad over nothing. This is what you wanted. James was just in here from Hagen 2 months ago showing you his bioactive line and you just spent $5,000 on his bioactive stuff. What is your problem? And I felt like a huge freaking hypocrite, let me tell you. And what it comes down to is when I brought in that Exoterra line, it generated my business more revenue. And I didn't see any decrease in sales from what I do, because what I do is different than what he does. And what he does, I am a one of a kind. No matter what anybody says, no matter what anybody wants to do, I am a one of a kind. And I will always put my feet down and believe in myself with that aspect. But for me, personally, that was one of my growing moments. And let me tell you about the 2 + 2 = 5. Leaf litter is almost impossible to scale. That is the hardest thing, second hardest thing besides dirt, to ethically source, ethically sort, and to ethically trust the people you're getting it from. Man, I digress. So I was having trouble finding a sustainable leaves. So what did I did? I reached out to other bioactive companies, and I was like, hey, I'm looking to try to get a year-long supply of leaf litter, supply my business. Perhaps we can work together and we can work it out. And guess what? Now going into to the end of February, I'm going to have leaves from Peru, from a great guy who's been in the industry for a long time. I'm going to start getting leaves from Tennessee, from a guy that I've been, who has a bioactive website that I've been doing business with now for 4 years. So when I was in a bind, all I had to do was reach out to those people. If I saw them as competitors, if I saw them as a threat, I'd be right back to square one, twiddling my thumbs, trying to figure out how to scale leaves. And again, that's that 2 + 2 = 5. They benefit, I benefit, community benefits. When it comes to animals, this is the biggest thing. If someone goes to a reptile show, and there's a frog company or a snake company selling captive bred ball pythons, and they're selling all of the supplies. That person, the general consumer, goes over and buys the snake. They then go over to my table, and then they buy the ball python snake kit. Okay? Without that other person, I wouldn't have gotten that conversion. Or likewise, we have a person that has dart frogs, okay? And they bought a fruit fly media to culture their flies from BioDude. Then they go over to the other guy and they buy the Excelsior, they buy the cups, they buy the lids, and they buy the frog, because now they have the food to feed the frog. So it's not just about what conversions can I get from this person, what conversions can I get from this person. How can the businesses collectively appreciate each other to have one person or one general consumer give you a benefit for everybody? And it's no different online. If you go and L reptile and you buy a Cuban nitinol, okay, and you don't buy the supplies from them, and you go to any herp and you buy a bioactive kit from them, guess what? Any herp just got a benefit from what not saying they would, but from what an average person would consider a competitor. And to me, it's important to really try and follow that philosophy, because I've definitely failed in that a couple times. And I look back at that and I was like, Josh, what were you doing? You're better than that. You're smarter than that. You execute better than that. And that was a fall forward moment for me.
Okay.
So
well, talk about that. Let's talk about when somebody's doing actually competitor. We're not talking about, okay, they're a little bit different. They have decided they're going to copy what you've done, because it's a lot easier copying than coming up with your own stuff.
It's honestly, I had a guy copy my website head to toe. Everything. And he was a friend of mine in Pennsylvania. He was one of my friends that I would hang out with. Initially, I was pissed. But then after I really looked at it, and I was just like, I just don't care. Because I literally went back to my platform, and I'm looking, I had 20% more than what I had before. Because I don't know. For me, at the end of the day, business will be there for you. You just have to know how to get it. And if you try anyway to work with others in this space, your business will benefit. Like Man, I just started a relationship with Rich at Reptile Basics. Can't tell you the amount of knowledge Rich has given me and helped me. I met with him at Tinley. We went out to dinner with Zach and Rose, and it was, the fact that he met with me and was willing to share his experiences to help me, and I was able to share mine. He's now a customer of mine. I met with, Robin he was Ship Reptiles, and now he's Redline Science. Man, I've been talking to Robin for years. I can't tell you the amount of knowledge that I've gotten from him. I'm with Mariah of Reptiles, and there are some people that do not like Mariah because Mariah puts the information where it's supposed to be and is not afraid to tell people that they are wrong. So sometimes that can create a little bit of that divide there. But in my opinion, it's kind of what the industry needs. Just try to create those symbiotic relationships the best you can, because if you believe in yourself and you believe in your brand, you'll be fine. I mean, it's out there everywhere. Kraft mac and cheese is still Kraft mac and cheese, but down every single grocery store aisle, you'll see H-E-B's brand, Kroger's brand, Giant's brand, and True Value brand right next to it. But guess what? Because Kraft was there, they're still getting enough conversions to do their thing. Do they appreciate that someone literally sent it to a lab and copied it? Probably not. But are they losing sleep over it and going out of their way to try and knock that off? I don't think so. Because when you look at Pepsi and Coca-Cola's balance sheets, they are literally identical. I did an accounting project when I was going to school, and I had to follow Pepsi and Coke for 2 years. As part of my thing, and literally did the whole presentation on that, and it was like 0.05% of a difference across the entire board. Cost of sale, net profits, payroll, almost everything is insane. Yet they constantly market against each other.
Maybe they've worked that out and said, hey, this is working for both of us.
Yeah, who knows? Or, maybe it comes down to who has better international distribution. Okay. I don't know. I've definitely been guilty of doing the opposite of what I'm saying right now. But I've always tried to
Well, there's something about
this is what
human competition. And it's it's interesting that human beings, we may be the only animal that can conceive of a different way of thinking that goes against our nature. It's very interesting, and we want to win. We want to in competition. It's we need to do that, but and you have that even in social media. There is no point in social media. You have an Instagram account, YouTube. There's at no point that you are in competition for followers or subscribers. They can follow or subscribe both of you. There's zero competition. And in fact, when you work together, it actually, your followers, subscribers feel better about being part of a team that's working together. And so it's going against our nature benefits us all. And I don't know where we went wrong in evolution, but
to a degree,
I don't know. Yeah, I always say we're chimps with bonobo dreams. We'd love to be peaceful. We have that idea, but we're just so warlike in the base, our base of who we are. So it's really realizing that and being how, really what we envision is better for us. I just found that very interesting.
Yeah. Yep. It is, and it's like I said, everything goes in a circle, man. Everything always goes in a circle. I'm a firm believer in karma and treat people the way you try to anyway. It always comes back in some way, shape, or form. So, the one thing I did not say is after I started to scale after about 1.5 years, it's really easy to lose sight of the in-house things that give you enjoyment. So I love my reptiles. I love my frogs. I love all of my critters. But as my business got busier, there was significantly less time that I was able to devote into just loving my critters. So I try to make it a point, like each week, like every Tuesday, I go out to the showroom and I spend 45, 30 minutes out there sometimes walking around, and I just look at my animals, look at them, I touch them, at least I try to. And then, I try to get as more interactive hands-on to break the tenacity you have to bring every day to manage your business. And when you budget, having to sit there and do the budgets, like
Yes.
a constant brain freeze.
All right, Josh. I was going to ask if you have any last words.
The only other thing I want to say is I want to thank you, everybody that has supported my business from 2017 to now. For those of you that don't, but still spread the good word of proper and ethical reptile husbandry, I also thank you guys as well. And last but not least, Bill, thank you for everything. I really appreciate the opportunity and giving a small business like me a little bit of a voice, man.
You're very welcome, and I thank you for the inspiration. We're all we have as a community and industry are growing, and for people like you, if we can make more businesses like you have that are ethically minded and care, that's what's going to make our community stronger and stronger. Yep. And that's the kind of businesses we need. So I appreciate you being an example.
Thank you.
Of what we need to be.
Wow. Thanks. Oh. I hear that sometimes, but whew, thank you.
It's true. All right. We will we'll close this off and we'll say goodbye. Josh, thank you very much for being on the show with me. And we'll see you around.
Bill. Dude abides.
Thank you, BioDude, for creating a business that we can all look to and say, that's the way it should be done. From caring about the reptiles to caring about your employees. This is the kind of business that's going to make our community strong. If you're interested in bioactive substrate or more about what Josh does, check him out at thebiodude.com, and he has an active YouTube channel for education. Thank you very much for joining me and Josh here for the Reptile Entrepreneur podcast. It's time for me to get to work on that next episode. So this is Bill Strand signing off. Take care of yourself. Take care of our reptile community. Let's see what we can build.